Otherwise, you sound fine.
It's telling me I can't switch my mics. So let me go out and come back in again, if that's okay.
Okay. Oh, sure. Try it. Now I'm waiting while John goes out and comes back in again. This is me doing that. This could be the kind of bonus content you get when you watch our YouTube channel, which we're developing and which you're all going to go to and listen to and like and watch. Figure if I say it, it could actually happen.
Hopefully this is better.
Wow. Okay. Jeez. You're like you're in my skull. That's good.
I like to leave an impression.
Welcome to the Emerging Litigation Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Hagee. I get to speak today to John Reed, who is founder and chief relationship officer with Rain BDM. We're going to talk about business development for litigators. I introduce him and introduce this live on tape, so I'll end it there. I hope you enjoy it. I did the introduction. I'm going to do it again just for amusement in case I screwed up anything. Today we're going to talk generally. We haven't titled this yet, so I'm going to figure out after we talk, I'm going to come up with a very clever title that people are going to look at that and say, gosh, I have got to listen to this podcast.
I just hope there's like 5-6 minutes that are usable. So
well, so far we don't have that. So generally this is business development for litigators, and we're going to talk a lot about personality types too. Now you have founded Rain BDM. That's Rain as in precipitation, BDM.com.
Correct.
According to your marketing lingo, you help lawyers build practices that reflect their strengths and their personalities, which is important. Obviously, their professional and personal goals. You've got a background in law. You've got your JD from Michigan State University College of Law with honors. I grew up in Ohio.
Nobody saw that coming, by the way. Certainly not my parents.
Mine didn't either, and I didn't disappoint. Now I grew up in Ohio, so am I supposed to hate Michigan State, or is it, who am I supposed to hate?
No, you can be okay with Michigan State. You can't like that other team up north.
Oh, you know what? I remember now. In Ohio, when Michigan State played the University of Michigan, the Ohio State was always backing Michigan State.
Yes.
So not that I followed it at all. So I never did follow basketball, as my dad used to say. I know it's football. And also, you got a background in marketing and sales. That's a lethal combination of things you have there. You've got a Bachelor of Science degree in marketing from Babson, also with honors.
Again, who knew?
Someone studied. Someone cracked a book. That was my issue. And you're also host of the Sticky Lawyers podcast, which in my first introduction when I was here by myself, I said I assumed that was about lawyers who have small children. It's not even remotely funny. But I did look through some of your episodes, which is very cool. So I will let's boost it here. I liked your recent episode just from this month. From big law associate to in-house counsel to legal entrepreneur. I like that. Navigating the Amazon, an IP lawyer who defends online marketplace sellers. I see what you did there with the Amazon. Then you got a guy in an extremely electric green shirt, an Olympic road racing cyclist turned pioneer bicycle lawyer. Man.
Top performing episode of all time.
Okay. I'll link to it if you don't mind.
Please do. Absolutely.
I haven't listened to that one. And then this is a very serious gentleman talking about a serious topic, bench strength from judge to judicial misconduct investigator and prosecutor. Ooh, I'd listen to that just for the jokes.
And he had a million of them. They were just rolling up.
Oh boy, I'm going to apologize to him and to you because like I said, I'm a little jacked up here. I'm glad to be healthy. And it's my second round of COVID, or maybe my third. I can't remember, because I get the shots and I felt like I had it anyway. Yes, I'm a repeat customer. Let's dive in. Now we're going to focus on lawyers, and litigators in particular. So we can start off with talking about the litigator mindset. So they're often trained to react quickly and decisively. And of course, everybody's got different personalities and how they address their careers and their lives and everything, but they can change and they can adapt, or they can use different techniques depending on the kind of person. So how does this reactive nature affect their approach to business development? And what shifts in mindset can help them become more intentional in their business development efforts?
Yeah, I think you really nailed it with this idea of being reactionary. The thing I hear most
about business development with litigators is, well, I don't know when somebody's going to get sued. I can't predict that. I can track Pacer or the courts, and I can send an email off to somebody saying, hey, I see you just got served. I'd love to defend you, to represent you. But that ship has sailed. That
Too
was
late.
novel 10 years ago, but it's not 15 years ago, but it's not now. So I think that's a little bit of a hindrance. This idea that as a litigator, I am reactive and I can't be necessarily proactive. And I hear from a lot of litigators, they'll say, well, I met some general counsel, I met some business owners, and I said, hey, if something happens, call me. Like that's the big business development hook. Remember me if something goes wrong. And I think you have to overcome that. And I think you have to look beyond the dispute and not wait for the dispute and look for other ways to build that relationship with the people that you want to serve.
Yeah. Yeah. So that makes sense. I mean, kind of understanding, and we'll get into that, but kind of understanding somebody's business. I remember, it was a banker and an accountant. Different professionals have said, we want to be kind of your partner in the business, not just, helping you when something hits the fan. So that makes complete sense. And we can talk about that more, but, so let's talk about personality. You've got, I can relate to this very much. You've got extroverted and introverted attorneys, and people who know me now as a full-grown adult would say you're extroverted, and I was always, but I wasn't. I was introverted. I went into writing, reporting about law, and so as a guy with a BA in communications and journalism, talking to lawyers was very intimidating as a young guy, and going to conferences and talking to lawyers was very intimidating. Going to Senate hearings to cover them, all very, it was just not my thing. I don't know why, I was introverted. But then, and in public speaking, forget it. But then it was a matter of, my God, I've got to make a living, A, and B, once you do it enough and see other people doing it, you're like, oh, okay, well, this isn't that hard, so get over it. And then, so professionally, I had to go through that change. Now, the introvert in me also likes to go to those things and be alone for the next week. But then I ended up running conferences and finding out that talking to lawyers, after a while I knew what I was talking about, but also they don't always want to talk about law. They want to talk about their dogs. And you and I are going to talk about dogs, or their kids or whatever, or vacation. So, and then they also want to meet other people. So, and some of them are introverted. So sometimes I would find a lawyer who's not talking to anybody, and I would just go up and start talking and introduce them. So anyway, you can have people who do that. That's a long way of saying you've worked with both types, extroverts and introverts. So how do these personality types influence the way litigators might engage with clients and networking like I'm talking about and build visibility?
Yeah, so I'll give you a little bit of background to frame this. In 1992, 1993, a guy named Larry Richards undertook, I think is still the largest survey of lawyer personalities. I think 3,000 lawyers at the ABA convention take the Myers-Briggs type indicator. Wow. And as I say, it's the largest collection of results. And I still refer to it. And, in Myers-Briggs lingo, there's 16 squares. So we talk about ENTJ, INTP, ISF, whatever. So litigators, according to that research, those who are extroverted, who are intuitive types, that's the N thing, and G, they are definitive and dominating. Those people represent, and I have it written down here, 19.3%. So if you divide 100 by 16, it's far less. So that's 20% of all lawyers fall into that. Then the next tier down is you switch from extroverted to introverted, and that adds another 10%. So you're at 30%, close to 30% of what are considered to be the top lawyer personalities, or the most representative lawyer personalities that make up the game. And, there's safety in numbers. We live in an extroverted world. I am, believe it or not, I'm an introvert. I think what I'm technically called or clinically called is an ambivert. So I can play one or the other. But like you, if I've had a big day with people, I want to go do a crossword in the corner in the fetal position. But so that's kind of the background for what we're talking about here. And it's great. If you think about it, we want that lawyer to be extroverted. We want them to be thinking on their feet, not necessarily waiting to react, to be ahead of it, to be proactive. We want them to take control, especially in a foreign environment like a courtroom, right? For most people, that's a very foreign environment. And we want them to be decisive. We want them to object when they have to. We want them to ask definitive deposition questions. We want them to build the strategy of the case. That's great if you're inside the fishbowl looking inside the fishbowl.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're dealing with that client who is an introvert, who is maybe not a sensor or intuitive type, maybe is a feeler, so has more, and not to say bleeding heart liberal or anything like that, but more feeling for other people, taking other people's feelings and thoughts into account. And then maybe they're also that what's called the P type, where they don't make decisions that quickly. They're the ones that get buyer's remorse. So if you think about it, I'm a hard charging litigator. I got the strategy, let's go. And I'm calling you and I want an answer on how we're going to proceed. If I'm an introvert, please don't call me.
Mm-hmm.
Can you email me? Can you text me? Can you do it a different way? One. Two, if I'm heading a company and what you're proposing is going to impact a lot of people, that might rub me the wrong way too. I want to take care of my employees. And lastly, if you're pushing me for a decision and I haven't figured out all the different scenarios, I haven't processed it, you're making me very uncomfortable. So and it's not that you're going to be a bad lawyer to that client or that client's not going to be a good client to you, but wouldn't you rather have that chemistry and that connection so that not only is the result good, but the relationship is great? Right. So I think that's the one thing to overcome in this whole thing is I'll just say this. When I administer Myers-Briggs assessments to lawyers, inevitably two things happen. One, they get the results back and they go, wow, that's why I think the way I do.
Right.
And then you wait
helpful.
for it. Wow, you mean other people don't think like me? So once you have those two revelations, now we're off to the races. Now we can tailor communication styles and how decision-making styles affect clients' behavior and things like that.
Right. Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. I always, about other people think like me. I feel like it might be too heavy, but I think even kids in elementary school and kindergarten, someone ought to say to them, by the way, there's a voice in your head. And everybody has one, and the way you see things isn't the way everybody else sees it. And like, that would be helpful as a child to know that, like, is something wrong with me? Am I a weirdo? So these differences, so how do you, when you have somebody that you see is pretty introverted, what strategies work well for that in developing clients? Yeah.
And I have a soft spot in my heart for introverts, being one and being in an extroverted world. There's all this pressure. The business of law firms are go get that business, close that client, go to that networking event and bring back, 34 business cards and things like that, which is an awful piece of advice.
Terrible.
So I think the idea is, okay, let's take what you're good at. You can't stay in your office. You've got to get out there eventually, but let's do it on your terms. So if you like to write, let's get you writing some blog posts, right? But as you're writing, is there somebody you could reach out to who you know and say, hey, I'm writing this post. I'd love to get your thoughts. Or we haven't met, but I see you've got this experience. That's a one-on-one. And we're all better one-on-one. Mm-hmm. And if I can control that channel and have those conversations, get that input, I'm going to deliver an ultimate work product here with this document. But I've gotten advice and guidance and a helpful tip from somebody. That's going to make me feel good. It's going to give me the momentum to try to reach out to somebody else. And then when I've written the thing, then maybe I can share it with people I know and say, hey, I've written this. I'd love to get your thoughts. Or has this happened to you? You can use it. So it's one-on-one marketing, or sometimes it's zero-on-one market, or one-on-zero marketing, or one-on-lots, depending on how you look at it. Mm-hmm. But I control it. I control the pace. It doesn't make the output any less valuable.
Right.
And frankly, my insights might be really helpful. If I can go off on a tangent for a second, litigators often say to me, what would I write a blog post on? Do I always have to write about the most recent case? This decision came down. No. Why don't you write about something you did that was cool in your practice over the last week? Or if you're a newer lawyer, you just did your first X, or you just encountered your first issue. You can write about that without saying I'm a complete noob. You can make it interesting because it's interesting to you. And I think that gives people a lot of confidence to share as well.
Yeah.
That I may be uncomfortable because I'm less than a year out or less than 3 years out, but I still can communicate what I'm going through, what I'm feeling, what I'm learning that will be of interest to others.
Yeah. And I can see where some lawyers are, I know because I've worked with them, of all levels of experience. Some are very concerned what they say can be used against them or can be used against a client or things like that. There are certainly ways to navigate that. But you mentioned a couple of things. One is collaborating with somebody. I don't know if you meant this necessarily, but collaborating with somebody on content, I have found, is one of the best ways to develop a relationship. So, for example, inviting somebody, a potential client or an existing client, to be with you on a webinar on a subject, or to co-author, you said, as an article or something. That is a very organic way to develop that relationship and to share your expertise and to learn. So it's like a win-win-win-win. So I always encourage attorneys, work with the people you want to represent and create things like being on this podcast,
Absolutely.
I could say too, I have invited people, attorney, and said, if you want to talk about this subject and you want to be on here with an in-house counsel or something, bring them, because that's great for everybody. The other thing about writing is that as somebody who has always looked for podcast guests, but also conference speakers, webinar speakers, when I was a publisher, I was looking for guest authors all the time. You're going to search and you're going to find, oh, they've written something about this. They've already done some of the hard work. Let me get them on. Let me get them to do it here. So I'm completely with you on that, creating content.
Look, it's like any other credential, right? I mean, presumably by the time you graduate law school, you've got 2 advanced degrees and you rely on that to get your first job. Well, if you have a library or a foundation of things you've written, whether they're articles or white papers, blog posts, presentations you've given, and you have the PowerPoints, that's your bona fides. And you're right, it opens the door. You've got instant credibility when people are looking for people to comment or speak or write. So
let's talk let's just, for lack of a better term, younger lawyers, but I'm always somebody who's defending the generations that I'm not in. So I'm a late boomer, I guess. Yes, I'm a boomer. And, then millennials and Generation X and stuff. And I'm always hearing people, especially boomers, saying, oh, these younger generations, they don't do this, they don't do that. They've got their head in the one I really loathe is when they're lazy. Like they're not, it's like, just stop saying these things. Now, they are responding to the world around them, too. Some people in their 20s and 30s, my God, picking up the phone is, what? Why are you calling me? Send me a text. They would much rather. And I think if you're introverted at all, defaulting to text and email it feels good. It's easy. But some things about this, and, there's a lot of talk right now. There's a podcast about young men, or it's called Lost Boys, and how young men in particular are kind of getting lost in the mix, and because they're isolating into social media, they're not asking. One guy gave the example. He met a young man who he'd been on 5 dates, and he didn't ask one of the girls out in person. They were all by text and things like this. And Scott Galloway is his name, and he's on with he does it with Anthony Scaramucci. Anyway, it's a great thing about boys, and it's frightening, frankly, because they're getting their information and everything fed through social, and girls are very different. He gave an example of he had a birthday party for one of his kids, and a boy would come in, and first of all, they're physically smaller than the girls. These are early teens. And physically smaller than the girls, and the kid won't look him in the eye and doesn't really offer any. He said, then a young woman comes in, she's taller, she shakes his hand, looks him in the eye. He said she could be like the junior senator of Pennsylvania. This is where she wants to go in her life, and where she's going to intern and work this summer. And anyway, I'll just plug that podcast too. And anyway, talking about younger, all that as background. And then a lot of younger lawyers are going through recently, they're working remotely. And, it's the same thing for kids, same things for young adults. So are you seeing differences in how early career attorneys, that's a better way to put it, approach business development? And how is the shift from in-office mentoring affecting that?
I'm very concerned for newer attorneys. And candidly, I think you're right to say newer attorneys and not necessarily younger attorneys, because we have people that are going to law school later, and sometimes they suffer the same issues as well. Look, the old adage is, and it's true, you graduate from law school, but you don't know how to practice law. And you sure as hell don't know how to develop business. So you have to learn those things on the job. Now, you could have come out of law school as God's gift to legal research and writing, and that gives you a leg up, particularly in litigation. Maybe you did moot court, maybe you did mock trial. But until you get in your courtroom the first time, until you do your first trial, until you have your first and you develop your sea legs, it's all new. You have to learn that. You can't implant a chip and be a great litigator. And I think it's equally as true for business development. You know, particularly if I'm going to a large law firm to practice and clients are big, multi-million dollar, perhaps billion dollar, whatever, huge law departments, do I know how to ask for, but do I even know how to develop the relationship? Because there's such a hierarchy in my law firm and a hierarchy in that law department. How do I learn who I'm going peer to peer with at the different levels? So you have to get guidance. You have to seek guidance. You have to be a sponge. And I would say, you know, and there's all sorts of things here, Tom. I mean, when you've got client demands on billing, it used to be partners would push more work down to associates, and that's not necessarily the same now. And so associates are looking to get their hours. So partners are working more, not having the time. Associates are trying to find the time somewhere else to justify their existence. There's no time for those things. So that's why I'm very concerned.
Yeah.
I think there's also this kind of emphasis on formal business development. You know, we've got to put a plan in place for this associate. And I just think if you stop and have a hallway conversation or come back from a client meeting and pull an associate and say, let me tell you what just happened, really interesting conversation, you know, or you bring the associate along and maybe the first time you're like, look, just drink and eat the crackers and don't say anything. But then, you know, give them a little more rope, give them a little more trust, have them develop those relationships. Yep. So I think, and look, you can have that remotely too. It's harder, but you can still have it. So I think this work from home remote thing is a little bit of an excuse by both sides. I think there's kind of equal culpability here, but let's face it, in the power dynamic, the associate's not going to feel as powerful as the partner. So the partner has to be the bigger person and do the teaching. Yeah. I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's true. The in-person mentoring, somebody early in their career, you know, when I started off as a writer or reporter, what was I, 23? And my desk literally touched the desks of the other more seasoned guys, the managing editor and the other editor. And they were old guys, John. They were 41 and 45. And I thought, oh, these fossils, I can learn a lot from these guys. Well, to hear them on the phone and to see their writing style and to have them hear me on the phone and read my stuff and rip it up, it was painful, but it was so valuable, you know? It was like being put in a fire.
Well, and I'm going to go not the full way with you on these extreme generational differences, but I will say, you know, particularly boomers and Gen Xers, hey, it was good enough for the person who taught it to me. It's good enough for me. Certain types of matter rolls downhill, right? Whereas a lot of younger generations grew up in the everybody gets a trophy world. And can you please soft pedal my criticisms and whatever? And I think that the law is not forgiving. It can be a difficult practice, as we all know. There's a blend there of having to develop a thick skin, but also in the delivery, both sides.
Yeah. I do think that the experience and intellect really influence, like my kids grew up in that everybody gets a trophy, let's watch everybody's feelings world. And a lot of that was well-intentioned, but the trophies were. Anyway, at one point, I think one of the things I said to my kids, you know, I don't have a lot of wisdom as a father, but once in a while something would come up. I'd say, just so you know, when you grow up in the world, not everybody cares. Not everyone cares about your feelings. And I knew one day you know, we were very liberal parents. I don't mean politically. I mean, you know, we let them do things. And I said, also, so you know, your parents are very easy on you when the world isn't going to be. And I knew their brains one day would figure that out, and they have. I mean, they're both in their 30s now, and they're productive contributors, professionals. They both ended up working with children with learning disabilities. So I sent them, you know, one thing I really sent them where the money is here. But anyway, they have a lot of compassion. They're both working on advanced degrees, and, you know, they figured it out, right? Yeah. We're not going to get a trophy every time we get out of bed.
But here's the thing, Tom, this is beautiful, and thank you for that, and congratulations to your kids. And for you being the parent to those children. You're right. Not everybody cares. But yet, despite that sage wisdom, they found themselves going into an area where they have to care.
That's true.
And I think that's a wonderful lesson and model anybody really, but for lawyers too, litigators, you still have to care. You have to care about the client's kids, the client's bottom line, all those other things. And when you demonstrate that care, not only is, I think it's good for your soul, but it helps you expand the relationship and it helps you become that trusted advisor. That's this cliche term, but I still use it. I still love it. I can be a fantastic legal advisor. Tom, you're a great lawyer, Tom, and I wouldn't make a legal decision without talking to you. Thanks. That's great. But when somebody comes to you and says, Tom, I've relied on you. You're a fantastic lawyer. Where'd you buy your ar? Right? It's like you're imputed with more wisdom than you may necessarily deserve. But because of the breadth and depth of the relationship you have, there's that comfort, that chemistry, that rapport. So going back to this idea that, we can all be hardened and say, well, nobody cares about me, so I'm not going to care about them. If you go the extra distance and you try to expand that and learn about other people, again, I think it gives you better perspective, especially in this day and age. But I think it also makes you a better counselor.
Yeah, I think that's right. Showing a curiosity about the other person, I think is meaningful. So,
yeah, I always say that Alec Baldwin had it wrong. It's not ABC always be closing. It should be ABC always be curious, and to a lesser extent, always be conversing, because that's how you learn.
Yeah. Let's jump into a litigator's brand and reputation. So how do you advise litigators who are who they want to serve? Who do they want to be professionally? So what's your advice to them about, identifying the ideal client and how they can be the person to best represent them?
Yeah, I'm going to actually work backwards. I'm going back to the fishbowl. Let's work from inside the fishbowl first. Understanding that a brand is a promise. First and foremost, it's not logos. It's not clever taglines. It's a promise. And we are in the trust business. We are in the service delivery business. The promise is that I am going to act and behave and conduct myself and assist you in the way that I've represented it, right? I'm not going to guarantee results because I can't, but I can promise these other things about myself as a lawyer. And when what you put out there, what you represent, lines up with what you perform, that builds trust. So again, we're in the trust game, right? If I'm going to be like this, I say I'm like this, I'm going to be like this, and I'm like this, and you experience this, and it's great. You're ahead of the game. But let's break down brand for a second. So for lawyers, we're talking really about 4 different aspects here. I'd say first is role. I'm going to go through these in a minute. Role, skill, context, and style. When I do workshops on this, I'll say, what's your role? Inevitably, people say, I'm a litigator. I'm a commercial litigator. I'm a trial attorney. Wrong answer. I am a problem solver. I am a dispute resolution expert who works outside the courtroom. So that helps you get to where you want to be in your practice, just starting with what it is you ultimately want to achieve on behalf of the client and the whatever. Skills, litigation, it could be problem solving, but just don't go through the bullet points that you see on resumes. Look at your other skills too. I mean, interpersonal skills, empathy, that's something that could be in that bucket too.
People never used to put that kind of thing on resumes.
No.
I'm likable.
Yeah. Well, first
I wouldn't put that. Anybody
that says I'm a people person, it's like, you're out. That's not, I hate that. Yeah. Context is okay geographically. I represent, estate planning clients in this metro area, or I represent clients in this vertical, or mid-market companies in the tech space, whatever. You define your context there. The last one I think is the most important, and that's style. How do you do what you do? Okay, so if you're a litigator, are you a hard-charging pit bull? Are you more of a facilitator? Are you a bridge builder? Think about that. So if we look at those four things, role and skill and context, it's kind of the how, what of the equation. The differentiator is the style, right? There are a lot of attorneys out there who say, I'm a hard-charging attorney. I've got these skills. I'm a litigator. I've got these skills, and I work with these types of clients. But how you do what you do could be the thing that sets you apart. So I think, and it's a long, belabored answer to your question, which is Start first by thinking about those aspects of yourself. Understand the building blocks of who you are as a lawyer. And don't forget, you can also put in there who you want to be. So if you don't have the skills that you want to represent or promote, you can go get them, right? If you want to change your role a little bit, if you want to change your context, you can do that. And similarly, you can say, this is the personality or this is the style, the demeanor that I want to bring to what I do. You can make those choices. Okay.
Yeah, and I think it has to be authentically your style. I've heard leading trial lawyers speak at my conferences over the years, and they would say to younger lawyers, like, don't try to be me, figure out your style, because, it's going to be more authentic. It's going to be a lot easier for you to implement, but don't try to be me. I mean, certainly learn from great lawyers, but
and yet, going back to what we talked about a few moments ago, this is the way I learned it. This is the way that it was taught to me. It was good for my mentor. It was good for me. You're going to do it too. Mm-hmm. So there's that danger that message is maybe being heard, but isn't being, parlayed down to the next generation of lawyers. But you're right about authenticity. Yeah, absolutely. And I think I would hope that lawyers find passion in what they do. Not everybody does.
No.
So at least know what you're interested in and what motivates you, and see if that can't be part of that brand. If you like tech and you want to work in IP, you're not necessarily going to be a great estate planning attorney, right?
Yeah.
If you want to work with people, maybe that's, working on the counsel side of employment, or working in family law or something like that. If you like it to be a little more, sterile is the wrong word, but a little more, cut and dry by the books, whatever, great, corporate. I mean, you got to come to the table with some semblance of what interests you, and then at least have that push you in the right direction.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about reputation. It's built over time. What steps can litigators take to define what they want to be known for? I mean, we've talking about this a bit, but help you balancing your passion with practicability. Practicality.
Practicalism.
Diction is my thing.
I would say, look, I can't tell you how many times I've heard it, maybe you as well. Doing a good job gets you more business. Doing a good job is your calling card. No, doing a good job is table stakes. Doing a good job lets you stay at the firm or keep the doors open. It is not a growth move. So I take that off the table, and let's disabuse people of that notion that that's what they have to do. I think it's incumbent on lawyers to think about what goes into a relationship and always take the higher ground, take the initiative. We are insanely busy, all of us, everywhere, it seems. And so if you leave a voicemail for somebody and you expect them to call you back in an hour, don't be offended if they don't. But at the same time, don't keep calling back and saying, it's me again, following up. Be creative in your pursuit and your relationship building. I think that the thing that I would leave people with is always find ways to demonstrate what it's like to work with you, right? So if you are myopic in that I want to handle your litigation, and that's the only thing you're asking about, are you vulnerable in any areas? Are you exposed? What's your litigation portfolio and what are the cases that you handle, things like that, right? Okay, great. But how about your kids? How's your business going? What are the successes that you've enjoyed? Because when I represent you as your attorney, I want to have a relationship with you, because if I'm a personal injury attorney, hopefully I'm going to represent you once, right? It's the shot I get. But I want to have a relationship with you so that if you know somebody else that finds themselves in a bad situation and needs my help, that you would think of me because you had a favorable experience, maybe not the result. And sometimes it's hard to divorce those two things, but that's what you're going for. And frankly, Tom, I think it's more fulfilling. If we go back to this trusted advisor thing, when you get to the trusted advisor level, not only is it you giving advice and your client is heeding that advice, but it's also you being personally fulfilled because you got that relationship with them. Not that they're doing blindly what you tell them to do, but that you've got that give and take. And if you want to really go into the economics of it, when you get to the trusted advisor level, you're rate increase proof. Talk about sticky lawyers, right? The thought about somebody leaving you as a lawyer to go to another firm is abhorrent. That lawyer's sticky. You're sticky with them.
Yeah.
And so maybe you can't get 20% increases every year, but you can maintain your premium and maintain that relationship.
Yeah, as in any business, maintaining the client is way more, it's a lot less expensive than having to go out and get a new one.
Easier to keep it and then go find one. Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
right. That's right.
Yep.
So, but you hit on the thing too, we're litigators. You talked about this earlier, a lot of the conversations are transactional, but you want to get into things of understanding their business. So like I might ask a business client, how are tariffs, is that going to affect your business or whatever's in the news. That's anything I say is controversial, but you rely on migrant workers. How is this affecting, but asking them anything that shows an interest in their business and educates you and how to represent them. So I think asking those kinds of questions.
Here's a gem, and I could only tell you anecdotally how powerful it is. Go to the client's business, right? So if you're in another state and you're representing them, or they're a new client, go to the factory floor, go to the headquarters, learn by walking around. And let me tell you some stories about how this would work. First off, personally, in a prior life, I was invited by the general counsel of a company to meet with him in his offices. This company had acquired, because of the owner, a very impressive art collection. So our meeting may have lasted 15 minutes. I was there for an hour and a half, being shown this $200,000, whatever or more painting over the water cooler, right? And the thing in the lobby and the pride that he had to show me these things, more valuable than anything we decided in the meeting.
Yeah.
So there's that. The other thing is, if you go to meet with the CFO and on the way to his office, you walk past the HR director's office or the director of sales or marketing or whatever, maybe he'll stop and introduce you. Maybe you can find a way to get introduced. So you expand your relationship that way. So, again, we would say, oh, well, younger generations, they just want to be on the phone and they just want to text. For this type of thing, it's more efficient and easier for me to be in my office communicating with my clients. I'm saying, took us out of the chair, go where the client is.
Watch your language.
I know. Sorry. Now you got to check the explicit box on this. I'm sorry.
That's right. It's not for children. We're going to create a lot of solace with our use of Yiddish on this podcast. Now, we've been delightfully talking. Time is flying. So I do want to close with two things. One is, if you had, like 2 or 3 things that a litigator should do right now or start doing daily or weekly to develop business, what would those be?
A couple things. Your client is at the center of a universe. Your prospective client is at the center of a universe. In that orbit are other people. If it's a business owner, they may have a financial advisor. They may have an outside CPA. They may have a real estate agent. They may have whatever. As you get to know them, you can say, who else do you rely on in your world? Because I'd like to meet more people that you know. So, because I think that would just help me be a better representative or better counselor to you. So I think about that augmented client, if you will, and you've got the in. You can say, hey, we both work with Joe, and I thought I'd come. Maybe I'd like to learn more about you and whatever. Now you're doubling the referral sources, and you've got bona fides already because you've already got the client relationship that's mutually between you. So there's that. The other thing is networking events, client meetings, whatever. When you meet with somebody who can be a strategic partner to you as client or other revenue generator for you, when you leave that meeting, whether it's wherever it may be, windshield time, whatever, stop. Take a few minutes and say, what did I learn in that conversation that I can act on?
Yeah.
Okay. So we confuse follow-up with action. You may say, well, I'm going to follow up on Tuesday. I'm going to call him on Tuesday. That's procedural. That's the method of how you're going to contact the person next. When you say, what did I just learn that I can act on? Whether it's the phone or texting or US mail or whatever, it doesn't matter because the action is I'm going to make that recommendation to them. I'm going to give them that referral. I'm going to send them that book on, wines of Tuscany because they're going to Italy next week.
That's right.
And if you found other things to talk about besides the law, it's going to make it so much more fun. and interesting.
Yeah.
And they're going to be surprised because you've demonstrated what it's like to work with you. You're broader than your litigator title.
Right. Yeah. It's just so true. I mean, if you ask me about this this print of this painting that's over my shoulder about boxing, I would bend your ear for the next hour and a half about the history of boxing because I was nuts for it, following it, and it would just mean so much, you know. Anyway, speaking of personal things, I'm also a dog lover. There's one on the couch behind me snoozing away, a 15-year-old English Cocker Spaniel, healthy as can be. He's deaf, but my gosh, he still acts like a puppy. I love dogs. And so you're doing some work with leader dogs. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest joys of my life, Tom. I'm currently honored to be the chairman of the board for Leader Dogs for the Blind. And it's an organization that helps people who are blind or low vision, really not only across the country, but around the world, to gain independence. The dog part is a little bit of a misnomer. Yes, we do a fantastic job from breeding to training and placement of dogs. But we also do white cane training, what's called orientation and mobility training. And I think apropos of what we're talking about here, one of the really interesting developments of the past year, we hired our first ever psychosocial director. So this is a person who's dealing with clients who may be on the wait list, clients who may have left campus after getting their dog, clients who may have a dog that's retiring, all these different emotional things they're dealing with, which are unique to that situation. We are all in on the whole client, and it's heartening, it's fulfilling, and the board is great, the team there is great. I can't say enough.
And the name of it again?
Leader Dogs for the Blind.
And is that their website?
It may be leaderdog.org.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Please do. Please do.
Yeah.
I can't say enough.
What a
I want to know we're going to wrap up here, and I'm the person that has taken the most time talking here today. But if I can go back before Leader Dog, as great as that was, I want to kind of leave with two stories, if I may, that kind of typify the things we've been talking about. I was once counseling a guy, coaching him, and he called me about, 10 o'clock in the morning, and he said, "Hey, I'm having lunch with the general counsel of a company that we haven't worked with in a few years, and I don't really know what went wrong. What should I talk about?" I don't know. I mean, do you think you should go in there and say, "How did we screw up?" Or why start with that? I said, just go talk. Just understand this person. So he called me back later in the day, and I said, "Great. What did you learn that you can act on?" And he said, "Well, I don't know, but the weirdest thing, this general counsel, she collects whiskey bottles, antique whiskey bottles." Great. So we went to the everything store. We went to Amazon together, and we found a coffee table book on distilleries or glass making in the alcohol industry, whatever it was. He had it sent overnight. She couldn't call fast enough to say, "Thank you. I can't believe you picked up on that," whatever. I couldn't tell you whether it led to business immediately, but it certainly warmed up that relationship.
Sure.
So that's that idea of thinking beyond your litigation. And then the other story, which I like to tell, is I was coaching another attorney who, when I start coaching attorneys, I start with where they are. I don't have a playbook, right? We're not going to start on page number 1 of the textbook and you graduate 8 chapters later. Where are you? And he said, look, I got to tell you, we're a 2 minivan family. We got kids that are playing sports all the time. So he says, I'm leaving the office at 3:34, going home, putting on sweats, but I'm taking my trial case, in this case, to the food court at the hockey arena. Mm-hmm. And he said, what do I do? And I said, well, how about this? Leave the suit on, leave the trial case in the car, in the van, and go into the stands and just start talking to the other parents. Same question. What do I talk about? I don't know, right? How about that new Galaxy Samsung phone, right? How about those Bears? I mean, how is your child liking playing on this team, right? And kind of an introvert. So this was a little, icky, a little prickly for him. Yeah. But I was so pleased about, a month or six weeks later, we met again and he came in, he was kind of smiling. And I said, what's the deal? And he said, so I went to a hockey game, one of my son's hockey games over the weekend. And I was talking to one of the moms and the dad walked over and I had not met him yet. And so we were introduced and the dad said to me, "Oh, you're so-and-so. You're like the mayor of the rink. You know everybody."
The mayor.
So yeah, I love that. The mayor of the rink. So he went from in a very short time, and God bless him for throwing himself into this, just talking. And the next story that goes on top of that is one of the dads that he met, the son had recently joined the team because they had moved in from out of town. And the reason they had moved in from out of town was so this dad could become the new CEO of this company. And he says to the attorney I'm coaching, hey, we've got a tournament in Pittsburgh next weekend. What do you say we drive together?
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of time on the road together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
that's a great story.
A lot of messages and stories. But I love those two stories. They kind of epitomize what success means to me and what I think you can be as a litigator or any attorney.
Yeah. Well, thanks for bringing me back to that. Well, John Reed, we've been talking for an hour and it's flown by. I really enjoyed talking to you. I think people are going to enjoy this. I can't wait to get it out there. And let's talk again.
I would love to. This has been so fun for me. This is easy. This is great. This is what I do. So.
Good God. All right, maybe I should turn my mic down a little. No, yeah, you're coming through loud and clear.
Good.
I've got to stop saying all these filler words, John. So, maybe I should have a tip jar or something for every time I say so and every time I say gotcha. I don't know if you listen to your own podcast a lot. Man, I annoy me so much.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Is that a real background? Because you live in if it's real, you live in a beautiful place.
No, I'm in a van by the river.
Van down by the river. One of the best. Gosh, that's kind of your profession, isn't it?
Yep.
You're not exactly a motivational speaker, but you're in that John Candy. No, it's not John Candy.
Chris Farley.
I put my heavyset comedians into one file. I'm fresh off of COVID.
Good for you.
And
you look good.
Thank you. Thanks. It's a filter. And I am feeling, and I've had my first cup of coffee. Your taste buds really go berserk. Coffee tasted awful, like battery acid. I had it today. I'm having it today. I am jacked. I slept fairly well. I'm off of COVID. Wow. Caffeine. It's a lot. It really gets you rolling.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think more children should drink it, actually.
Yeah. That and smoking cigarettes. So no, we're against that. Just,
yes,
I think I can
on the
speak
record, we're recording. Yes.
for both of us.
Bad. Very bad.
Kids, stay in school. Don't smoke. I told my kids at a certain age, I said, because tattoos and getting your nose pierced, I said, I don't care. Get all the tattoos you want and pierce whatever, and just don't smoke. Boy, did they take me up on it. The tattoos are quite elaborate. Excuse me. I'm going to hit my cough. Hold on, I'm going to hit my cough button. Did that work?
Yes. Oh my gosh, you're like Mel Torme now.
Yes, I had to clear some things out.